Welcome to Moving Iron with Casey Seymour and Greg Peterson, the podcast for anyone and everyone involved and interested in the business of ag equipment. If you want to understand what trends and market forces are impacting the price of your iron, you've come to the right place. Buckle up, it's time to move some iron.
Hello and welcome to Moving Iron Podcast. This edition of Moving Iron Podcast is brought to you by John Deere. I've got Greg, Machineer Pete Peterson on to talk about what's happening in the world of equipment. Greg, how you doing today?
I'm doing well, Casey. How are you doing?
Doing pretty good, man. Doing pretty good. So you made it out to my neck of the woods last week. There, you're over in Laramie helping your daughter get moved into their new home and all the fun stuff.
Representing cowboy country, Wyoming.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go.
Got to move in. I had not been to Laramie, so it was really fun to spend some time out there. Beautiful community, nice people, and I like the cool, crisp weather. It was like 90 and sticky in Minnesota. We got up there, and it was like 72 and zero humidity, so it was nice.
Yeah, and they were probably complaining about how humid it was. So it was, yeah.
I have to complain about something, but I also saw antelope roaming around near the kid's house, and I realize that's probably pretty common out there, but we do not see antelope in Minnesota, so that was fun.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a different kind of climate out there, and it's, like you said, Laramie's a cool place. A lot of neat stuff going on there, and the good thing about your daughter and her family, when they get out there, they're going to experience all kinds of weather in the same day. So it'll be great. It'll be summer, spring, and fall, winter, all in the same day. So it'll be great. So it'll be great.
They're in their mid-30s. Just had their first child. They've been an interesting route. They lived in Minnesota. Our son-in-law is from Indiana, so they're Midwest. But they lived in Pennsylvania for 7 years, California for 3 years, now in Wyoming. They've been both been to China, been to Spain, been to Mexico. So they've traveled a lot more than Mrs. Pete and I have when we were in our mid-30s, put it that way.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Well, speaking of travel, let's talk a little bit about what's going on in the auction space. You know, pre-4th of July time frame, you see some stuff happening that last week of June, kind of like what we talked about, setting the table for what the rest of the year is going to look like. As we're going through what we're going to talk about before the show started, you brought up a couple of stuff, one from Richie that we're going to talk about here just kind of directly, but some good late model low-hour stuff that was out there and, brought the money. So talk a little bit about what you saw from Richie.
Yeah, that Ritchie Brothers sale was last Tuesday, June 30th. It was their U.S. Ag event. So I think most of the equipment was from just down the road from me, Medford, Minnesota, just south of the Twin Cities. Also some stuff from Meade, Colorado, and I think some of the other Midwest regions. But pretty much same trend, Casey, I've been seeing since about June 17th. Good condition used has definitely bumped up at auction. So on the Ritchie Brothers sale, for example, they had a 24 model S780 John Deere combine. Nice machine. It was in Medford, Minnesota, 476 engine hours. Did have some John Deere Power Guard warranty, I think, till mid-April of 27 or 750 hours. But it brought $414,000. Well, I realize some people might look at that and compare it to, the price of new and say, oh my gosh, but in reality, $414,000, very strong hard cash auction price. In fact, that's the highest auction price on an S780 with over 450 engine hours in 2.5 years. I mean, you got to go back to December of 23 to find an S780 with over 450 engine hours sell for more than 414. So that's a little continuation of the combine trend. We'll have a couple other examples I can share on that front. So a couple other sales last week, but the Ritchie Brothers sale. Also, loader tractors, of course, been very strong for quite some time with the livestock sector. They had a pair of 23 model 6R 175s with loader, one with 310 hours from Colorado, one with 200 and some hours from Minnesota. Both went for 185. Now the one with over 300 hours, that's the second highest auction price ever on a 6R 175 with loader over 300 hours. At 175, at 185. So that did well. And a skid steer, I thought, did real well, Casey. They had a 23 model Deere 332G, super sharp. I mean, but it had 987 hours, so it wasn't like it was any barn find or anything. But it brought 41K, which is that's the highest auction price I've seen on a 332G with over 430 hours. This had 987. So hats off to Richie last Tuesday. Again, great sale. Really marketed well in advance, 2 weeks out before the sale. So good, clean equipment sold well on that sale.
Yeah. So that late model hour stuff, we've been watching it here late, and we talked about this last week. We've been talking about it for a while, but both of those two machines you just talked about that brought good money would have been in that 1 to 2 year old segment for the most part, right? The 23 is a little bit outside that 1 to 3 year old stuff, but if you're kind of like what we talked about, when you start taking off the cream off the top of that, you're going to start looking at the next level up or what the next best available machine is that fits your marketplace. And these last two sales you've talked about here this weekend and last week too, where we brought up some of that late model hour stuff, you're seeing some movement there in price. Just like you talked about, it's the highest prices that you've seen over the last 2, 3, 4 years, and it's starting to kind of point a direction that you're starting to see that, hey, maybe some of this 1 to 2 year old stuff in good condition, priced correctly, things moving where they're supposed to be, good stories about what's going on with those pieces of equipment. Some doors are starting to open towards some people being excited about maybe looking at some of that stuff.
Yeah, no question. I think the supply issue, again, that's maybe the piece people don't see. You and I are staring at it every day, looking at the back end data at machinerypete.com. We can see overall supply levels at the model level or the sector, like combines or 100 horse, 200 horse tractors, whatever. That supply has really tightened over the last 18 to 24 months. And again, since mid-June, the prices have been strong. There was another sale that same day, last Tuesday, Casey, out in Mowequa, Illinois. Our friends at Schmidt Auction, Trent and the crew there, great folks. This was a sale for Gordon Farms. It was interesting. Now, Schmidt Auction is pretty interesting. They're always up front, no reserve, which personally, tracking the auction pricing for all these years, I find that helps when potential buyers get to know, like Adam Marshall out your way in Kearney, Nebraska. They always say no reserve, no buyer fees. But Trent had a sale last Tuesday, again, Mowequa. So on the combine front, a 13 model S670 with 2,316 engine hours. Now, was a Gold Key Tour, which our dad has always shown that helps. And Trent and team, very smart to push that up to the front in the advertising. Through the shop every year, so really well cared for. Hard cash, it went 103.5. Now, if you're thinking about a 13 model S670, it's easy to think, well, it's easy to get stuck a few years ago what an S670 maybe was worth. And you think 103.5, but I'm telling you, that's really strong. In fact, it's the average on a 13 model S670 this year is now, including this one, is $75,125. So 103.5, that's the second highest this year on a 13 model. Now, overall, S670's average price so far this year is just over $80,000. And last year it was about $88,750. So they're down 9.8% overall. But when you get a premium one, a really well cared for Gold Key Tour, one owner, again, you see that premium at 103.5. They did set a record on that sale last Tuesday in Mowequa, Illinois. A pre-def, of course, loader tractor is the recipe for a record right now because pre-def everyone wants. Loader tractor's been hot. But they had an 08 Kubota M108X with 1,780 hours, one owner, went for $45,200. Highest I'd ever seen before was $41,000. But get this, that $41,000 was July 22nd of 14. It was 12 years ago. Wow. At $41K. Okay. So that's the strength with good used loader tractors. And again, if you sprinkle in pre-def, you've got dynamite. So if you're a farmer out there and you have a low-houred pre-def whatever, you need to go look in machinerypete.com and see what these things are selling for, because you can lose track, even when times are challenging, what they're going for.
Well, there they are, mocking you. See you next year, loser. That weedy area that's got you thinking, man, I hate that spot. Wish I'd sprayed better. Get the last laugh with a sprayer upgrade from John Deere. Precision upgrades that can increase your sprayer's performance, like ExactApply, advanced nozzles to give you more control at more speeds. It's just one of the many precision upgrades you'll find at johndeere.com. Now, let's see who's laughing.
Looking for more accuracy, more productivity from your current planter? Let's get exact with precision upgrades from John Deere. Start with ExactEmerge and get accurate singulation and spacing at 10 miles per hour. Or choose Exact Shot to promote early root growth and cut fertilizer costs. And with FurrowVision, save time by verifying seed depth right from your cab. Visit johndeere.com/planner upgrades and see why nothing runs like a deer.
So you did brought up one when we were talking through here. You had a 9660 come through with 3,100 hours on it.
Yeah.
And that one, I mean, that you told me that price is like, man, I was waiting for you to say like 40, 35, 40, and it was,
Right.
double that. So
Yeah, it was June 26th in Cecil, Ohio. It was a farm auction by United Edge Real Estate and Auction Company. Shout out to those folks. They do a really good job on their marketing, really pushing the envelope. And it was an 06 9660, 3,105 engine, 2,061 SEP hours. Like you said, $68,000. And when I looked at our data on 9660's auction prices, I'm telling you, that's the highest auction price on a 9660 with over 3,000 engine hours in 4 years. You go back to August of 22. So again, it's pre-def, super sharp, well cared for. I posted a picture of it on our Facebook and Twitter. You can tell how nice it was. But again, yeah, pricing has been up since about June 15th to the 17th. Good stuff. And again, interesting to see combines. I think we talked about 3-4 examples last week. Here's another 3 we just touched on. So, it is what it is.
yeah, it's a, and not too long ago, we were talking about the seasonal dip and what that looked like. I had my concerns with the seasonal dip, that it was going to kind of stay that way. I really thought, like, man, I don't want to be, Debbie Downer here, but I really thought that dip was going to stay there, and we're going to continue to see some things kind of stay lower than they'd been, right, coming out of the end of the year. But that dip came through, rebounded nicely. Like we talked about last week, though, Greg, because of the type of auctions that we're seeing come through and the volume of the auctions that we're seeing coming through, it's really doing a favor to the marketplace. When you start looking at how the overall reaction to what the buying pattern looks like as things move forward. You look at some of the retail numbers that are out there and how those are playing out. You're starting to see some slowly receding 1 and 2 year old machines out there. Obviously, that 5 to 10 year old stuff, like we talked about here, is still moving well. It's just sitting out there. Guys are pushing it through, but you're seeing some movement, and it's not because there's a bunch of money in people's pockets either, right? It's kind of one of those, when the right thing comes through at the right price and set up exactly how they want to have it set up, and they're ready to make that move. A lot of the conversations I'm having with guys is like, there's a lot of last minute stuff happening, and I think it really has to do with, it's a buyer's market, right? I don't have to make a big move. I don't have to make a big decision right now. When the right thing pops up and it's going to work for my operation, then I'm going to make that move. And you're seeing a lot of that happen right now. And with order writing period for most manufacturers going on between now and the end of the year, everybody's order writing period is going on between now and the end of the year. There's not going to be a lot of new stuff that gets bought for 26 or 27 delivery, right? So you're going to continue to see this stuff. So as what does come in on trade can make this way in, that's going to be the next best fresh thing that's out there, and it's going to be interesting to watch how those play out in the marketplace and what that does to the overall spectrum.
Yeah, I'd say 2 things, Casey. One thing top of mind for me is to see this movement. We touched on it last week, but historically, this is coming on 37 years tracking this stuff, to see a bump, a noticeable bump upwards on auction pricing in end of June historically is unusual. Now, we went off the rails there around COVID. Everything was sky high there because of supply chain issues and all that. But again, historically, and particularly when we're in a down cycle on the ag side, to me, I've seen kind of that May 1st, honestly, through September, is we always see a dip in auction pricing, and then it would sort of build up at the end of the year. So to see this noticeable jump now is almost like doubly important, because I think it points towards where we're going towards the end of the year. And I think you made a key point there. It's a difficult, tough period we're in right now. But we've shared here a month ago that we've been seeing almost a 20% increase in the number of auctions. Now, there's a lot of pain involved with that. A lot of it is guys retiring at the top end, top the equity drain, no doubt about that. but there's been a lot of, forced sales or reductions. Ironically or weirdly, this influx of good quality used is kind of just what people are sort of looking for. And so it fits the bill when the good stuff is showing up right now. And we shared, again, I think last week, that we had a large deer dealer recently express, I can't believe I'm saying this, but we wish we had more good used on our lots. And again, that's, people are focused on used right now. And like you said, when the sales of new, which have been down, what now, 2 to 3 plus, and they're, it's not looking rosy for the rest of the year. If that continues to be tight, which it will, like you said, boy, you got to be eyes wide open to this used market, because again, if we're seeing a jump into June, check in with me about middle of November and see how we're doing historically, because we all know what happens at the end of the year. So it's really interesting stuff.
Yeah. I'll be interested to watch how another thing too, with these order writing periods, really a lot of manufacturers, the dealerships have really pulled back from the annual roll stuff that you've seen over the last couple of years. So,
but farmers are pulling back.
Yeah, absolutely. And, but that's not really affected, market share is a big thing to all the manufacturers, right? Where you're at position wise. And it'll be interesting to see, here we are, year 3 going into this. What, if there's any kind of real panic levers that are going to start getting pulled, and panic lever is probably not the right word, but like, how are we going to make sure that we plant our flag and we secure that up? I'm looking for, as these order writing periods come out, I'm looking for some really cheap, longer spans of interest coming through, and some of those kind of things. Some, cash in lieu of type of things. There's some discounts and those kind of things. I mean, hell, you see Ford's doing it now with employee discounted, pricing and those kind of things. So it's going to be interesting to watch how that plays out this year, because you have 2 hard years, really 3 hard years, and you're going into the third or fourth, depending on how you measure it. But the gas in tanks get pretty low, right? So to get people enticed to come back in and start looking at new equipment, especially because how it's priced and where it's at in the marketplace and those kind of things, it's going to require a level of discounting that is to get people fired up with it. And the bad thing about discounting is it affects the used price, right? And you start looking at those disparity between, the cost new versus cost used, discounts and everything else, and all the stuff that comes into play. That's another, stepping stone that has always been a hard one for me to navigate, because I'm pricing it this way, and then here comes a program, and all of a sudden you're sitting there going like, man, we're in a good spot now. We're 10 or 15% in the wrong direction now, and so now we got to wait for that program to go away to get the pricing back. And so there's going to be some of that comes into play.
Yeah, it's fascinating. Like you say, manufacturers, how long will they be okay with such depressed sales of new equipment?
Yep.
One interesting little piece, a lot of manufacturers play in both the construction and ag side. So you read their quarterlies or whatever, and they're making it's like, well, how is that much money being made when you aren't selling new equipment? Now we tend to think of the farm side. We are just good used construction equipment. Auction pricing has been strong the first half of 26. Just starting to hear now some ripples, which are very understandable. I think given the price of fuel, if you're a contractor and you'd bid a job, you kind of bid based on, what's known at the time, of course. I mean, like any business, but now all of a sudden, whoops, oh my goodness. And you got all these machines around this fuel, and bottom line, we're starting to hear more ripples. Like there might be some more auctions coming on the heavy equipment side, which had been trending up. Now on the ag side, again, we haven't really seen en masse those, whatever you call it, discounting or programs or offers or whatever. And in fact, I had never really seen this before, but it was a deer exec about a month ago. It was an interview with Tyne Morgan with U.S. Farm Report, very openly stating, we can't drop our price of new because that would damage, the value of used. It actually mimics, President Trump talking about the housing bill that's stuck on his desk there. And he's like, he just kind of came right out and said it. I don't want to sign this because it might affect the value of your home, which, you can argue about that. But what I've been saying, and we've been talking about here for going on a year and a half now, is the thing that's working in manufacturers' favor right now is the used supply issue. And when you compare that, you sat squarely in the chair back in end of 13, 14, 15, 16 and saw how much 1, 2, 3-year-old used stuff was on dealer lots all over the country then. And it's different now. There are some dealers obviously got some stuff to move, but in mass, that supply line has gone like this in the last 2 years. And so 2 years ago, it was so many dealer auctions pumping stuff on it, to get ahead of it. And now, unfortunately, it's farm auctions, but long-winded way of saying, if you're a manufacturer, you're sitting in a better spot, I think, than you could have hoped for looking forward. All you're waiting for is a spark in the commodity prices, corn and beans. Now, who knows when that'll happen, and if it sticks and it stays at a decent level, then the farmer is in the spot. Last week we talked about that an S770 on a sale in Poplar Grove, Illinois, June 18th. It brought 446. And we just talked about 3-4 more examples this week, highest with over 3,000 hours, whatever. Well, at some point, if you're a farmer, it's like, ugh, if that used stuff is doing this, maybe the better play is to look at new. Granted, that's a big nut, but I think that's what manufacturers are kind of hoping for. Now, will it play out? You got to give farmers some reason to be optimistic, corn and beans. But yeah, I have not seen this. I've never seen before a period where used values are strengthening when sales of new are tanking. Yeah. I just have not seen that before. And that's kind of what we're seeing right now.
Yeah, typically they correspond with each other. When prices of used going down, new sales are going up, prices going up. So it's just
when farmers have money, equipment's at the top of the list. What gets spent on? Yeah. That's been the truth for as long as I've been at it. I think it always will be. And I just haven't seen this disconnect. And we have the tightening supply of used, to me, has been the big story here the last year and a half. And so when you see these strong auction prices, again, at the end of June, I'm telling you, that's unusual. So it's just folks reacting to what's real in the market.
Yeah. Well, I can tell you that my son mows grass, and one of his customers that he has is a 91 or 92-year-old man that is still wakes up every morning, goes sells equipment, works at a local Case dealership here in town, and been doing it for I think 65 years or something like that. So whenever I get a chance, I stop by and ask him, talk to him a little bit how things are going. Although the other day we were talking, his name's Kenny, and Kenny, all the stuff you see happen right now in your whole career, have you ever seen anything like this before? And he said, nope. And he goes, if I haven't seen it, it's never happened. So I go, good point, Kenny. And I go, so it's 91, still getting after it. So this is a very unprecedented time that we're in. And like we've talked about, I think this is I really believe this. I think this is the precursor to what we're going to see happen moving forward. And I think longer trade cycles, we're going to see more hours put on machinery, less machinery used on the same number of acres and those kind of things, where the efficiencies that people are looking for are going to really start to, they're going to start squeezing every drop out of every piece of equipment they've got out there right now. And they're going to have to continue to do that, because if they don't, it's going to be just because of the price, right? And if you look at it from a construction model, that's exactly what they do every day with a scraper, a dozer, whatever it is that they're doing out there. That machine has a throughput that they're trying to look at and measure that, and that's how they're going to do it. So it'll be, I think that's how we're going to see things transpire moving forward. That you used to trade every 3 to 5 years, and maybe now it might take 5 to 7 years to do the same thing. So it's going to be interesting to watch how it transforms.
It's kind of that new normal you coined a while back. I think that's definitely a good way of verbalizing it. And on the 91-year-old front, I'm excited for an upcoming auction. I think it's in August, but my friend, I think Dale Jones with Sullivan Auctioneers, big guy. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Dale texted me the other day and he goes, "Hey, Pete, I got one for you. It's either in August or October. I'll put a note out on it. But the guy's 104-year-old farmer, born in 1922. So excited to tell his story, and hopefully we can get on camera and get a little, like you said, like your friend Kenny there.
Mm-hmm.
God gave us 2 ears and 1 mouth. So when we ask our elders about what they've seen, and then we shut up and listen, we can learn a lot. So,
yeah.
And also we have a sale this week that'll be interesting, just from a money flow standpoint. Our friend Alex Kerr with Kerr Auction has a sale on Thursday, July 9th in Penfield, Illinois. It's day one of the historic, I forget what it's called, historic tractor day, historic ag days in Penfield. Great, kind of a 3-day event there. But Alex is selling a lot of vintage tractors. And I'm always interested in those to see, is the price level holding, or is it sliding or going up? Because it tends to be people who buy those, a 1967 1206 or a 72 John Deere 4000, whatever, an ACD 21 muscle tractors, are people kind of my age-ish, 60s, high 50s, dad's favorite tractor. And what I found over the years is when that pricing is going up, it tells you things. And conversely, when it's sliding, it tells you something as well. So, but check out Kerr Auction, KERR auction.com. Come out to the sale, folks. We'll be there Thursday. We're filming it for the TV show, so it'll be great fun.
Well, speaking of the TV show, Greg, if folks want you to come out and maybe have a speaking engagement for something they got going on, or just come out and film their auction, best way to do that, just go to machinerypete.com or hit you up on your socials.
Yeah, they know where our website or social media. Just find me. And we have another sale the following week, July 14th. We'll be in Mount Pulaski, Illinois, a really nice farm retirement auction by Mike Moskey auction. Mike's one of my all-time favorite auctioneers, just a super nice man, great auctioneer. And then I think we have the next day, the 15th, we're going down to see Trent Schmidt, who we talked about. He has a sale coming August 4th, a wonderful auction there. So check that out. Schmid, SCHMID auction.com. So yeah, we got I'll be heading to Illinois a lot in the next few weeks. It'll be fun.
Right on. Well, Greg, appreciate you being on the podcast. We'll catch you again next time.
Sounds great, Casey. Have a good week.
All right. Thanks.
Thanks for joining us. We'll see you again next week. And remember, Moving Iron is available on Farm Journal's YouTube channel and anywhere podcasts are found. So until next time, let's move some iron.